Busted flat in Baton Rouge, waiting for a train, and I was feeling near as faded as my jeans. Bobby thumbed a diesel down just before it rained. They rode us all the way to New Orleans. I pulled my harpoon out of my dirty red bandana. I was playing soft while Bobby sang the blues. Windshield wipers slapping time, I was holding Bobby's hand in mine. We sang every song that Javi knew. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing, I mean nothing, honey, if it ain't free. Yeah, feeling good was easy now when they sang the blues. You know, feeling good was good enough for me. Good enough for me and my Bobby, yeah. From the Kentucky coal mine to the California sun, hey, Bobby shared the secrets of my soul. Through all kinds of weather, through everything we've done, your Bobby, baby, kept me from the cold. One day of near Selena's long, I let him slip away. He's looking for that home, and I hope he finds it. But I trade all of my tomorrows for one single yesterday to be holding Bobby's body next to mine. Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing. That's all that Bobby left me. But feeling good was easy now when he sang the blues. Hey, feeling good was good enough for me. Mm-hmm. Good enough for me and my Bobby, yeah. La da da, la da da, la da da, la da da da, la da da, la da Bobby, yeah. La da 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 da, la da da da, la 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 Bobby, yeah. La da da, la da la 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 la. La 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 la. Hey, my Baba, la la Bobby McGee, yeah. La 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 la. La 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 la. Hey, my Baba, la la Bobby McGee, yeah. And I wanna call him my lover, call him my man. I said I call him my lover, did the best I can. Come on, and the Baba, no, and the Baba McGee, yeah. La 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 la.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you all for attending this service as we celebrate the life of Jim Rich, and what a life it was. My name is Kerry Holgate and I'm a funeral celebrant. I'd also like to welcome everyone watching from home today via the live stream. At the conclusion of today's chapel service for Jim, there's a warm invitation extended to you all to join his family for light refreshments here at the Bunurong Memorial Park, and we will escort you over to the refreshment lounge at the end of the service. It's straight across the park. Today's service will be followed by a private cremation. So today we gather to honour the life of a warm, kind, caring man who was loved by everyone who knew him. When I met with Jim's family, Wayne and Alison described Jim to me as the best dad who was always there for us. He was a great mentor and advisor, and he was so funny with everything he did. We could talk to him about anything. Jim had a great sense of humour, which he inherited from his mother and he shared with his siblings. He was always so welcoming to everyone, and he was larger than life. He loved to socialise with his extended family and his many friends, and I think that's testament to the number of people who are here today. Jim had a very strong work ethic, and he worked hard all his life to provide the best for his family. He was so well regarded by everyone who worked with him. He could make or fix anything. Jim had a very adventurous life, and his work and his holidays took him to all parts of the globe. He had great generosity of spirit, and he was always quick to lend a hand when anyone needed his help. Jim's faced the challenges of life with great determination and courage, and he'll be so deeply missed by everyone who knew him. So without further ado, I would now like to share with you the life of Jim Rich. This is Jim's story. Jim was born in Bullope Hill, Gloucestershire in England on the 31st of October 1942 to Bert and Pat Rich. He was the second eldest of 5 children and had 3 brothers, Ray, Rhett, who's deceased, and Tim, and a sister, Benita, known as Bonnie. His father was a tool maker and his mother was an entertainer in her early years, and she also ran the family home. Jim went to school in Newnham, Gloucestershire, where he liked playing soccer and rugby. In 1954, Jim's parents decided to emigrate to Australia to seek a better life for their young family. They set sail on board the SS New Australia, bound for Sydney. They were sponsored by Port Kembla Steelworks. After arriving in Sydney, they lived in a migrant hostel for about 2 years before moving to Salisbury North in South Australia. Whilst living at the hostel, one of Jim's claims to fame was that he used to walk to school with Glenn Shorrock from Little River Band. They then moved to Elizabeth Vale in South Australia and then to Dunedin in the South Island of New Zealand. Jim lived there for a short while. When he was about 16, he took up bodybuilding and powerlifting, and he really loved this sport. After finishing school, Jim worked as a welder boilermaker and he got a job with Detroit Allison. He was involved with building waste silos at refineries. Jim's family loved living in Australia, and Jim played local footy, and he also began his lifelong passion for playing darts. It's been a big part of his life, and he loved playing in teams, and he's been very involved in local darts associations. He and his father also loved fishing, and they took every opportunity to get out in their boats, and they rarely came home empty-handed. One of Jim's first jobs was working as a rouseabout on a station near Quorn, and he loved being out in the bush. He loved the Pitchy Ritchie Railway, and in later years he took his family back to that area several times. Jim also became a very keen dancer, and he discovered yet another lifelong passion. Throughout his life, he's won many trophies and prizes for ballroom dancing, rock and roll, and other styles. He was always able to make his partner look good. He taught ballroom dancing in Adelaide, and it was there that Jim met Marilyn after moving back to South Australia from New Zealand. They welcomed their son Wayne in 1964 and their daughter Alison in 1967. He was, and he always will be, Alison's hero. Jim often took his kids fishing. One day they went fishing at the Hastings jetty. Alison, then a wobbly toddler, went to sit on the jetty edge, missed and fell forward toward the sea. Jim caught her before she hit the water as they made a big splash. Afterwards, a local boy dived in to retrieve Jim's thongs and his wallet with his week's pay carefully stuffed into it. They moved to Carrum for a short time to help his mum run her milk bar and hamburger shop. They then moved back to South Australia and they lived in Elizabeth with Keith and Helen before buying a house in Bowood Street, Elizabeth, where they lived for many years. Over the years, they had many good family holidays, fishing along the west coast from Ceduna, along 90 Mile Beach, Browns Beach and Royston Heads. They'd pile into the old Belmont, and Wayne recalls Jim and his mates drinking long necks as they travelled along, and the air would get just a bit whiffy. Jim was a jack of all trades, and as I said before, he could turn his hand to anything. Over the years, he worked as a grader driver around Edithburgh, Clare and Port Augusta, as well as working in a bakery, as a fencing contractor, and also on building sites. Whilst he was working on the building sites during the day, he put himself through night school to get his qualification as a boilermaker. In later years, when Wayne or Alison or other family members needed anything fixed, they all knew they could rely on Jim to be there. He was also quite a good cook, and his chili con carne was one of his specialties. Jim loved music and he had very eclectic tastes, ranging from Billie Holiday to the Wurzels. Wayne and Alison still laugh every time they hear the pheasant plucker, and I have to make sure I say that very carefully. Jim then moved to Blairgowrie and he began working with an engineering firm in Hastings and Cranbourne. He made concrete products and welded large tanks, and his work took him all over Australia. He bought the block next door to his mum after his father passed, and Jim began building his own home there in Blairgowrie. He made all the steel and built the house whenever he could spare time away from work. He was a great craftsman. Jim was still dancing regularly and playing darts. One night, whilst at his friend's dance school at the Civic Hall in Rye, Jim met Lauren. She recalls that Jim was just so much fun and he was a magic dancer. They began going out and they went dancing 3 or 4 nights a week for many years. They loved going to Rosebud and Rye RSL clubs several times a week or up to Petroni's in Springvale to dance. Every Friday night for years, they got together with a big group of friends to enjoy a meal and a dance, and they have such great memories of those times. There were many great gatherings and dinner parties with family and friends. They bought a house in Hogan Drive, Rye, and lived there until they moved to Hastings 9 years ago to be closer to Lauren's family. Lauren and Jim have travelled extensively throughout the years. They've been all over the world, visiting the US, Canada, and to Jim's favourite place, Africa. He really loved it there on safari. They drove around New Zealand in a motorhome and they've done several cruises, including a river cruise. They've had several trips back to the UK to visit family and to visit one of Jim's favourites, the Forest of Dean, near his old home. They caravanned for many years and they love getting off the beaten track. They both have a great sense of adventure. Jim has always kept in close contact with his extended family, and they all love getting together at Bond's home in Woorayalloc and Healesville for Christmas and for great Boxing Day feasts. I'm told she was very much the hostess with the mostess. When Jim was at home, he liked making home brews and doing crosswords. Lauren was a very keen gardener, and Jim did all the heavy lifting. He also made her some beautiful garden metalwork using her designs. Jim continued his love of fishing, and he spent many hours out on the bay. He took up golf, and he and his good mate Pete loved playing at Devil Bend or Mount Martha. They also looked forward to the rich family golf tournaments. Jim liked watching quiz shows and any sport, especially footy, even if his team, the Crows, weren't playing. He loved being a grandfather, and he was so proud of his grandchildren, Scott, Nick and Tom, and his little great-grandchildren, Tina and Sun. He loves spending time with them. Jim has kept quite good health most of his life, and it's only been post-COVID that his health has deteriorated. He was diagnosed with cancer, and he's fought a brave battle for these past 5 years. Jim passed away peacefully at Frankston Hospital on the 11th of June, with Alison there holding his hand. The family and his many loved ones miss his presence. He lovingly lent all his strength, his positive attitude, and his joy of life to all. I'd now like to invite tributes from family, so I'll ask Tim, Ray and Bonnie to come forward with their tributes, followed by Wayne and then Lauren. Thank you.
Jim, we were both born in Bullopil. He was about 18 months after me, for mum's sake, I suppose. Little tiny village, Bullopil. It was about 7 houses and a manor house on the top, which had little stables underneath, which were converted into accommodation. 1 or 2 up and 1 down, as the Poms used to say. Had a little laundry with a huge copper wash thing, which fitted 2 little kids quite well for our monthly bath. Got to save water. Mum and Dad, well, especially Dad, gave us plenty of toys. Mostly got from the manor house tip, just about 5 miles away, consisting of wheels, just bike wheels, no tyres, because plenty of play. You didn't need to spend a lot of money for toys back then. Didn't have any money anyway. And the wheels and a stick running alongside, you could make it do all these sorts of tricks, double turns and so forth, and quick breaks. All depends how fast you run, basically. Other things, marbles, anything. Conkers. Some English people would remember conkers. Competition of a kernel warmed and then let cool so as you could drill a hole through it, put it on a piece of string and bash the shit out of your opponents when they're standing. Stupid game, but it was fun when we were young. Handmade was the call of the day. The River Severn, which we were alongside, created lots of tons of time there too. Water slides, not the big things you get in parks nowadays, just a bucket of water on the mud and you could get a great deal of speed going down into the river. The river washed the mud off too. But Mum had to get the most of it out in that big copper again. Billy carts, toboggans, all handmade. It was a frugal life when we were young, so no money for expensive prezzies, which you can laugh and enjoy with homemade stuff. Jim took a little while to swim, so I was always on my back in the river. First time he swam, he got himself in a deep water and grabbed my hair before kicking me in the chin. He kept kicking and realised when he lost his grip of my hair that he was actually swimming. And he never looked back after that. It was our greatest achievement a little while later that we swam from one side of the village to the other side in the next county, basically. It was a badge of honour for all village kids doing that. The river is well known for its quarterly Severn bore, where the tide used to come up and create a fairly big bore surfing type of thing. We would make temporary rafts with water things and get them together when the river, the bore got to our village area on the turn. It was the biggest that it had come to. When by then it was the biggest when it carried on up towards Gloucestershire itself. Our rafts never really went well. When he probably lasted about 100, 500 metres at the time. Our Rhett actually, when he came over years later, actually got his surfboard and rode the bore for a short while. Jim started school at Newnham Private School, about 4 miles away. Good distance from home along the riverbanks, and then to Blakeney School before we moved to Australia in the early 50s. Sorry, I've lost my place. After a while, we moved to South Australia, or when we came over on the SS New Australia. Me, Jim, and our little baby sister, Bon. It was a great adventure coming along there. We arrived in Sydney after stops in Freo and Melbourne, and then the ship dropped us off in Sydney, and we caught the coach down to Berkeley Hostel, migrant hostel, on Lake Illawarra. We were always frightened to go swimming in Lake Illawarra because of these bloody huge jellyfish, which were huge things. We were frightened of them. Moved to South Australia, and not long after that, I got a job at 14 years old, and did all sorts of things because he didn't have much money. I joined the Navy a little while after that, and Jim went on his merry way, doing all sorts of eclectic jobs and experiences around Australia. I'm sure Wayne and his family will, and Bonnie and Tim will put you thing. I shall miss my brother. And remember the good times way back when we were two little rich buggers. Thank you.
Good job. You all right?
Yep.
Well, I'm the little sis, I'm sure you all know. There's so many things and situations and incidents and accidents and just outright funny, hilarious moments I have in my memory bank about our beautiful, kind Jim. The old memory bank is not always up to date nowadays. Often something will trigger a memory and will flare, and that takes me briefly back. A couple of the incidents. There was the wardrobe incident, don't ask me, in New Zealand. The mum toilet RSL help accident. I had rung Jim to give him a blow-by-blow report of mum and I in the toilet at the RSL in Hillsville. And I asked him to hurry up to Hillsville to help me out. He said no. After we laughed uncontrollably for ages, my poor old mum, but she did give us a lot of laughs. Then there was the day that he had to take mum to the theatre because I'd bought tickets to take mum to the theatre and I couldn't go, I had to work. So Jim had to go in my stead. And they were late, of course, and you know where I get that from. You couldn't rush mum. He was pushing her in her wheelchair across the Spring Street to go to the Princess Theatre, and on the train tracks, her wheelchair got stuck. Now, mum had to get out, and Jim was trying his hardest to get the back wheels of the wheelchair out, and the trams were banking up behind us, and you know the noises, they were going ding, 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 and Jim's going, whoa. And he finally got it, got it over. Anyway, later, after the show, mum orchestrated another incident. It's the lost rings of the Princess Theatre incident. Jim's eyesight, as you all know, and I'm sure Lauren can attest to, and Alison and Wayne, he wasn't the best. And in a fairly dim auditorium, our mum frantically told the ushers that she couldn't find her rings. It was always a big thing with mum. When she was in the home, or even when she lived with us for many years, she would take her bloody rings off and wrap them up in a tissue. And then the tissue would get thrown out. She'd go, well, where's my rings? Well, I had to go through the rubbish bin to find them. Anyway, she couldn't find her rings. And after a lot of searching under the seats for a long way up and down, they were eventually found on her other hand. On her other hand, she'd forgotten that she was playing with them and took them off. And then I think a couple were in her pocket because she had quite a few. She was a bit of a blingy girl. And then there was the case of the lighted newspaper under the door of the outside toilet in Blair Garage. Remember that, Rog? I can't quite remember if it was our Jim or Roger in the toilet. So then I can't remember who lit the piece of paper to throw under the door, because apparently it was going to be pretty smelly in there. And, of course, everybody knows, don't you, that to get rid of a smell you light a match, but not a piece of newspaper. And that was really, I remember whoever I was outside with, there was mayhem, and it was a really funny thing. Our Jim was so loved and respected by me and Rog. He helped Rog
build our second story of our house. That's how clever he was. And not only loved by us, but our kids and their kids. He joined us if he could on many, many celebrations, birthdays and Boxing Days. And our joint birthday parties were great fun. And I'm grateful to have been able to share them with him. We all have some fabulous memories. And Lauren and Wayne and Alison and everybody else here would be too. I just wish we could have made just a few more. Thanks.
Can you start with me?
Yeah, I'll say.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to celebrate our Jim, brother Jim, as we always had great times with the lad. As our host said earlier on, he just loved his fishing. He had a green thumb for fishing, and he always caught everything. Anytime he went out, he always caught fish. He was so good. He was a great guy. Jim, he was a fantastic brother. Such a nice guy. Top bloke.
You can do it.
Yeah, he was a hard-working man. He always worked hard. He was a great tradesman. He will be sorely missed. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh.
Hi, everybody. Thanks very much for coming along today. Thanks, Ray, Tim, Bonnie. That was really good. Really good. I had mixed emotions over the last couple of weeks since Dad passed. A lot of times I'm thinking to myself, well, I feel sad, but I'm not moping about. I'm not crying. I'm thinking maybe I'm not feeling how I should. And it's hard because whenever I think of Dad, and Alison, you do the same, whenever I think of Dad, he makes me smile. Every memory of Dad is a good memory. I have probably the worst memory in the world. I don't remember a lot of my childhood. But every memory I have of Dad in my childhood has been a good one. As previously mentioned, he loved fishing, and ever since I was old enough to walk, he'd take me fishing. And it's been mentioned by Kerry that a lot of times we go down past the journey to 90 Mile Beach or Browns or Royston Head or wherever. And we'd be in the back of that bloody old Belmont. Darren and I in the back, Dad and Keith in the front. They refused to wind down windows. And the air was nigh unbreathable the whole way up. Eating jerky, drinking long necks, and everything's coming out. There's a photo over there that Dad carried in his wallet for over 30 years of a mulloway he caught on 90 Mile Beach when I was young. It was as big as he was, which wasn't too big because like Dad was only about that tall. But it was his pride and joy, and right, every time we went fishing, he caught fish. Every time we went fishing, I can't catch fish like Dad could catch fish. Alison mentioned before, Dad was the best dad, and that's true. He was. He was everything I wish I could be. He could do anything he could turn his hand to. Dad could do it. about 2 years ago, he rocked up to my place at Benalla, and he had his welding arc welder in the back. He said, "Oh, I bought you my old arc welder because I've got a new one, so I bought you my old arc welder." I said, "Dad, I've never welded in my life. I've got no idea how to use an arc welder. I could barely use a drill." "Oh, no, I'll show you." And he spent 2 hours showing me how to use an arc welder. Now, I can't remember anything he told me. And it's sat there untouched for 2 years. I'm scared of the bloody thing, to be honest. But that's just what Dad was, because Dad could do anything. And so he would tell you how to do stuff. One of the things I took on board when I was growing up, and on the fishing trips and anywhere we used to go, I'd ask Dad questions trying to catch him out. Because he always told me, between him and Granddad, they knew everything. Yeah, so you remember that. Between him and Granddad, they knew everything. They knew the answer to every question. So I'd try and catch him out, and every time he didn't know the answer, "Oh, yeah, your Granddad knows that one." And it worked. It was the perfect scam, because I could never say he was wrong. And look, I was just going to come up here and tell a heap of stories about him, because there are so many. I mean, I was watching you guys talk before, and I remember, if you remember this, Tim, he came over to our house in Bowwood Street once. You, me and Rhett were sitting up doing the Four Yorkshiremen, Monty Python. And Dad was in the lounge trying to sleep. So, for the love of God, just let me sleep. And we were just waffling Monty Python sketches all night. Never cracked the sads, just moaning piteously in the corner. He loved his family. Dad was a friend to everyone. I don't think there's anyone who didn't like him. And he had time for everyone. It wasn't just liking people, but he had time for everyone. He'd give you the shirt off his back. He loved Scott. He loved Tom. And when Min and Billy came along, he loved them too. He loved Nicole. And when Tina and Sun were born, oh my God, I thought his heart was going to explode. His great-grandson, great-granddaughter. He spent time with them everywhere. But also, Min's family would come over, and he loved them too. And he just... We're here today, we're paying tribute to probably the greatest man I know. The greatest man I've ever tried to model my life on. A man I will never live up to. And I thank you all for coming. And I'm going to finish now before I embarrass myself. Thank you.
On the train tracks. Yeah, on the train tracks. Not long. You kicked her out that wheelchair. Yeah. He was so mad. Don't know how I'll go with this, but I'm going to give it my best shot for him and me. Where's Linda? Thank you all for coming to see Jim off. My family, friends and I would like to say sorry for your loss. Now I'd like to speak about my Jim Rich. He was fun, he was easygoing, laid back, liked everyone. Never had a bad word to say about anyone. only ever saw good in people. He never had much in the way of possessions. People were his thing. To know him was to like him. He was always up for whatever I suggested, as long as he didn't have to organise it. Just tell me how much my half is and when we leave. He was my best friend. We had each other's backs for 25 years or so. In that time, we made 2 homes in Rye and Hastings. He was the muscle and the grunt, and I was the pretty upper. He loved his children and grandchildren and now great-grandchildren, unconditionally first and foremost. He was very family orientated, and all you folk out there meant the world to him. I knew I followed along in the rear, but that was okay. It was the same with my girls. We understood that about one another. Now, you wouldn't think those frail old legs would dance, but they did. 3 or 4 times a week sometimes. Little Junie will attest to that. He'd have her on one hand and me on the other, rocking and rolling. It was magic. He was never short of dance partners. Once I retired in 2010, our first trip was to the Kimberleys in a huge 4-wheel drive bus, camping in tents in different camps scattered throughout the Kimberley. We waded rivers in chest-high waters to get to Mitchell Falls. Return trip was by helicopter, no doors. I had 1 foot out on the running board taking photos. Jim had hold of the back of my shirt. We had a great life together. We travelled extensively, I think, and saw parts of the world we would never have imagined. We've coach toured, ocean cruised, river cruised, flown helicopters over Niagara Falls and many other places. We drove motorhomes around Northern Territory, Tasmania and New Zealand. We travelled the Rocky Mountaineer train, out of this world. We've done sunrise and sunset safaris in Africa. We would be in awe in some of the posh hotels, as in the Fairmont Lake Louise and the Fairmont Chateau in Quebec, in Canada. We wander the halls like Lord and Lady Muck. 2 run-of-the-mill Aussies. In Paris, we overlooked the River Seine towards Notre Dame Cathedral. Open the window, some cheese, wine and a baguette. Pure luxury. We pulled our little caravan up the east coast to Townsville to see my brother David, then on further north to Rolling Stone to see Wayne, Julie and Tom. We came home through Western Queensland, Mount Isa, Winton, Longreach, Charleville, down the Kidman Way. What a trip. What an education about our wonderful country, which we both loved. On an odd day now and then, I'd say, I think it's a fishing day, Jim. He'd pack his rods, chair, paper, a thermos and some eats, and he'd find a river for a few hours. I'd wander camp, visiting, having coffee and chatting, and all would be good with the world when he returned. We understood one another. We knew when to speak and when to shut up. We had a very special relationship together. And along came COVID and cancer and shot us down. Jim has endured silently with optimism and hope for the future, but unfortunately was let down badly. The past 3 years he's had a battle. Past 12 months, it started to get on top of him. The past 3 months, and especially the recent 3 weeks, were a bit brutal. Mind you, he had 2 shining lights in his life during this time, in his great-grandchildren, Tina and Sun. Scott and Min, with Sun, have been a great comfort to him, visiting almost monthly since Sun's arrival. A great source of joy to him, and I thank you both. I'm going to miss him terribly, I've already been missing him for some time. My Jim Rich was fading away before my eyes. A big but. I don't wish him back as he was. It wouldn't be fair. I am so grateful to you, my mate, for the years we had and shall cherish them. And as Min would say, farewell, safe journey, and see you again. We'll be dancing with the stars.
You did it. You did. Good job.
Sorry, guys.
Well done to you all. Thank you for sharing those beautiful memories. Let's now pause for a few minutes of reflection, and it'll give each of you a chance to reflect on your memories of Jim. As we do so, we'll watch some images of his life and listen to music chosen by his family.
Busted flat in Baton Rouge, waiting for a train, and I was feeling near as faded as my jeans. Bobby thumbed a diesel down just before it rained and rode us all the way to New Orleans. I pulled my harpoon out of my dirty red bandana. I was playing soft while Bobby sang the blues. Windshield wipers slapping time, I was holding Bobby's hand now. We sang every song that Javi knew. Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing, I mean nothing, honey, if it ain't free. Yeah, feeling good was easy, love, when he sang the blues. You know, feeling good was good enough for me. Good enough for me and my Bobby, yeah. From the Kentucky coal mines to the California sun, yeah, Bobby shared the secrets of my soul. Through all kinds of weather, through everything we've done, yeah, Bobby, baby, kept me from the whole world. One day of Mussolini's long, I let him slip away. He's looking for that home, and I hope he finds it. But I trade all of my tomorrows for one single yesterday, to be holding Bobby's body next to mine. Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing, that's all that Bobby left me. But if feeling good was easy now when he sang the blues, hey, feeling good was good enough for me. Mm-hmm. Good enough for me and my Bobby, yeah. La da da, 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 la da Bobby, yeah. La da da la da, la da da da. La 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 Bobby, yeah. La 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 la. Hey, la Bobby, la Bobby McGee, yeah. La 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 la. Hey, la Bobby, la Bobby McGee, yeah. I wanna call him my lover, call him my man. I said I call him my lover, but this is just I can't.
Freedom, 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 freedom. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. The long way from my home, yeah, yeah, Lord. Singing freedom, 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 freedom. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Yeah, long, long, long way, way from my home. Yeah, yeah. Clap your hands, 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 yeah, clap your hands. Hey, 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 yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, yeah, 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 yeah. I got a telephone in my bosom, and I can call him up from my heart. I got a telephone in my bosom, and I can call him up from my heart. When I need my brother, brother, when I need my father, hey, mother, hey, sister, yeah, when I need my brother, hey, mother, hey, yeah, 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 yeah.
For those of you who wish to do so, please join me now as we recite the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I'd now like to read this beautiful poem chosen by Jim's family. Don't remember me with sadness. Don't remember me with tears. Remember all the laughter we've shared throughout the years. Now I am contented that my life it was worthwhile, knowing that I passed along the way, I made somebody smile. When you were walking down the street and you've got me on your mind, I'm walking in your footsteps, only half a step behind. So please don't be unhappy just because I'm out of sight. Remember that I'm with you each morning, noon, and night. So the time has now come to say farewell to Jim. Although his death has meant a physical break in the links of the chain that binds you together, the enduring impact of his life will still be evident whenever you speak his name. Be comforted to know his spirit is free and that he leaves this life satisfied in the knowledge he's lived such a rich, full life and he's been such an influence on the lives of so many people. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll now farewell Jim with another of his favourites. Could you all please stand?
Turn the guitar up, Mike, please. Guitar, Mike. Freedom, 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 freedom. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. The long way from my home, yeah, yeah, Lord. Singing freedom, 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 freedom. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Yeah, long, long, long way, way from my home. Yeah, yeah. Clap your hands, 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 yeah, clap your hands. Hey, 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 yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. I got a telephone in my bosom, and I can call him up from my heart. I got a telephone in my bosom, and I can call him up from my heart. When I need my brother, brother, when I need my father, father, hey, mother, mother, hey, sister, yeah, when I need my brother, brother, hey, mother, 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 hey, yeah, 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 yeah.